You know, when we see actors on screen, they feel like these polished, finished products. But how are they actually made? Today, we're diving deep into the journey of Ali Fazal, not just as a celebrity, but as a fascinating case study. We're going to look at the personal struggles and the wild shifts in the industry that basically forced him to write his own rules for being an artist in today's world.
And wow, we're starting right at the heart of it with this quote. Fazal uses this to explain that the very engine for his ambition comes from this really complex relationship with his dad. It's not as simple as idolizing him or rebelling against him. For Ali, it's the constant push and pull of doing both at the same time. And that's what creates the drive.
So let's really dig into that. This first section is all about how this super personal and often difficult family dynamic became the unlikely fuel for his professional ambition.
So Ali paints this picture of a childhood spent living out of a suitcase. He was raised mostly in Lucknow by his mom and his grandparents, so their values really became his foundation. His connection with his father, well, it was mostly through a phone line. He talks about these intense weekly calls that were less like a chat and more like a crash course on life, all from a distance.
And this is really the key takeaway from his early years. That distance, it created a kind of void. But the thing is, the resentment and the feeling of missing out, it didn't break him. Instead, it actually lit this fire in him, this powerful need to find his own way and carve out his own direction, completely on his own terms.
So, that search for his own path, it actually leads him to the very prestigious Doon School. And this all-boys boarding school would become this major shaping force in his life, introducing him to a paradox that, funnily enough, taught him about performance long before he ever thought about getting on a stage. He describes this fascinating dynamic at the school. On the one hand, you had this performance of being a tough alpha male. Everyone had to put on this front. But underneath it all, he says they were all just softies, completely desperate for some genuine human connection. And that hunger for connection, it found a pretty surprising outlet. See, they were all too shy to actually talk to girls at school events, so they poured all of those feelings into writing letters. He jokes that this whole environment created a generation of guys with, and I quote, exceptional letter writing skills. They basically became masters at pouring their hearts out onto a page.
Okay, so he's mastered putting his feelings on paper. But performing them? For an audience? Yeah, that was never, ever the plan. In fact, his journey into acting was a complete and total accident, and it was born out of a real personal crisis.
This timeline really captures that sharp turn his life took. I mean, look at this. He starts out as a serious athlete, all in on sports. Then, boom, a devastating injury just sidelines him completely, and he falls into a depression. And that's when a friend comes along and suggests something totally random. Hey, why don't you audition for a play? The final step here is the revelation. Getting on stage felt like discovering a new muscle he never even knew he had. It was addictive.
So this totally accidental start in acting, it ends up shaping his entire philosophy on what it means to be a working artist today, and it puts him in direct conflict with some of the biggest trends in the industry. Because as his career really started to take off, he ran headfirst into this massive fundamental shift in the entertainment world. And it forces all of us to ask this core question you see right here. What truly makes a star today? Is it still about raw talent, or has the entire game just changed? He breaks down these two conflicting mindsets perfectly here. On the left, you've got the traditional, old-school path. You take any role you can get, you're constantly working on your craft, and your performance is your currency. But then you look at the modern path on the right, and the game is totally different. It's about waiting for that one big break while you build a personal brand where your currency isn't how good you are, but how many followers you have.
And listen, this isn't just some abstract theory for him. He shares this chilling first-hand story of literally being in the room when an actor was told, sorry, your Instagram numbers are low. That's when he knew. The race had completely changed. And as he says, that's just scary. And all this leads him to a really crucial insight for any artist working today. You have to think of yourself as your own intellectual property, your own IP. It means you're not just an actor anymore. You are the brand. You are the business. You are your own product that has to be managed and grown.
But his reaction to this new reality wasn't to just start posting more on Instagram. Nope. He decided to take back control of the narrative. He chose to become a creator himself, launching a brand new venture with his wife and fellow actor Richa Chadha.
And together, they founded Pushing Buttons Studio. This is their answer to an industry they felt was kind of losing its way. It's their vehicle to produce the kind of stories they actually believe in, completely on their own terms. And they kicked it off with their debut feature, Girls Will Be Girls. And he's really clear that for him, producing isn't just about cutting checks. As you can see here, a producer is the vision keeper. They're the bridge between the money and the art, the person managing all the logistics and all the different personalities. They're the ones who have to protect the story's soul from the very beginning to the very end.
And you want to know if their approach worked? Oh yeah, it worked. Their very first project as producers wasn't just selected for the legendary Sundance Film Festival, it went on to win 2 awards. I mean, talk about instant validation.
So in the end, Ali Fazal's journey doesn't really give us a simple roadmap to success. Instead, it leaves us with this really powerful, lingering question. In a world that is obsessed with follower counts and big brands, he's challenging every single aspiring artist out there to look inward and figure out what success really means to them.